All right, welcome into another episode of the Goodman and Hummel podcast, and we are joined by a special guest today, a guy I once called soft. I didn't call you directly soft, Armando Bacot, but I did call your team soft back in November, and now I'm eating my words. But I thought you guys changed. I thought, listen, to me, it was so much fun to watch you guys. I compare you to the Boston Celtics a little bit this year, to be honest, and I live in Boston. Of a team that started off slow, couldn't kind of figure it out. And then after some time, you guys just clicked and put it together at the right time. But again, listen, congrats on a hell of a season. It was so much fun to watch you and your teammates. Again, especially when you see a team that is struggling early and react to a moron like me calling you soft and proving me wrong. Listen, and how you handled it at the final four, I thought was really impressive because you didn't go at me, but you had fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw that video, that was like just one of the motivating factors. I'm like, I'm gonna at the Final Four one day.
You did.
Armando, did you want to punch this guy when you saw the video? I mean, you lose to Purdue, top 15 team. You lose to Tennessee, top 15 team. I know you guys didn't play well, but when you see this idiot on screen and Coach Davis is playing it, what did you want? What did you want to say to this guy?
I mean, it kind of pissed all of us off. Just it was right before we played App State. I'd never forget it. Coach, he just turned on the TV and he just played that clip, and that's literally all we said before the game. It was no scouting report. And it just, I ain't gonna lie, it fired us up for sure.
Well, there's nothing worse. Am I wrong? Than being called soft, right? Like,
yeah. You could have said we weren't good. You could have said we didn't have talent, but just like that's what really, kind of took it over the top.
It's funny because your teammates denied, I think, that you were, I don't know if it was that you were soft. I forget how I asked them. But a couple of your teammates kind of denied it. And they were like, no, I think I asked them, I said, you guys weren't fun to watch.
Yeah.
And they said, we don't think that was the case. And I'm like, yeah, but, and I asked you that. And I think you understood what I was getting at, that you really weren't playing well together at that point. And I felt like you weren't competing from a toughness standpoint also at a level, certainly that you did later on in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the huge part for us was just playing together, specifically on the defensive end. Like, it wasn't really a help-to-helper type thing. It was just like, I don't want my man to score. That was like a huge problem with us in the beginning of the season. And then once we really started trusting each other on both ends, that's when we really saw, like, just our play take off.
Armando, when did you know that this Carolina team could be elite? As in get to the Final Four? What was it, the Duke win on the road? And honestly, what changed?
I mean, it's kind of crazy. I think really just all season we kind of were delusional because at no point, like, we didn't think we weren't a good enough team to go to the Final Four. And really? I mean, we got back like 6 or 7 times, but throughout it, like, we would have team, like, just player conversations in our group chat, like, we're going to turn it around. Like, we really knew and thought we could get to the Final Four. And I think just our belief, even through those tough times, just really helped us.
Well, you speak of tough times. You guys lose to Pitt at home, and Pittsburgh. We've talked about their struggles. Even after that, people were saying, "We're good. We can go to the Final Four."
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, but at that point, we were like just hoping we still could get into the tournament, and we knew like if we get into the tournament, just the way we played, it kind of we knew it would throw teams off, and I think just that Duke game. Specifically in the end of the regular season, that's when like our identity as a team really like showed just on a national level, especially with just that ball screen in the middle third. Just off of that, we just really started to, really find our identity.
March 5th, like I'm there, and I remember I had to go a couple days early because Kay did his press conference on Thursday. So I fly in, and it's all about Kay. Like nobody even cares about you guys going into that game, right? I mean, you're hearing it. It's all about him. You guys come out there and don't just win. I think you win that one convincingly to me. You guys controlled the game. You dominated the game for the most part. And then even after the game, I didn't even see you after the game, Mondo, because I had to go deal with the Coach K deal, right? It was still all about K Tell me what that whole deal was like going into it, coming out of it, where you partied, what you did after that game. Because I know you had to party after that game.
I mean, they beat us at home the first game. So going into this next game, we were already pissed. And then, like, we knew they just didn't think we were a good team. Like, nobody respected us. And it was like, it's one of those situations where we were like kind of a wounded animal. And it's just like at the point we were just fighting with our backs against the wall. So going into that game, I mean, we all came in there. Coaching showed us like a clip of the Lakers when they kept losing to the Celtics and how they just eventually beat them. And that really just inspired us. And I mean, we was going in there looking for a fight. It wasn't waiting for them to throw the first punch. We wanted to do that. And I mean, I think that's really what we did for real.
All right. So then give me the post game. What was it like after you beat him back in Chapel Hill? Tell me your night. Give me the unfiltered night of what that was like.
At 12 o'clock, it actually was my birthday. So
really,
oh, what a day!
Yeah,
you could imagine. So we got back on the bus and we drove to Franklin Street, and this was all our first times ever, like really experiencing it just because of COVID. And then my freshman year, they beat us twice. So I mean, it was just crazy. And just after that, you could just see the life, like even till now, just the life on our campus has been crazy. I feel like we kind of re-energized just Chapel Hill as a whole.
and it's so good there. I mean, Franklin Street, for people that haven't been there, it is electric.
It was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, just for the team, like everywhere we go now, it's like everybody loves us.
Where hey, like back in December when you guys would go out, what was it? I mean, were there times when you were hanging your head and would have the hood over your head and after some of those losses?
Definitely, for sure. Just because we knew we were so much better than the product we was putting out too. And like you said, it just was like a lack of effort thing, I think, for us. Like just not going out there putting out the best product every game. And you would think like you get like 30 games. So to be able to go out there and compete every game. But I mean, it was just a lot of hiccups and things we just had to get over.
I know getting into the Final Four is insane in itself with the whole experience that comes with it. But Armando, what's it like to play your biggest rival and probably not probably it is the biggest rivalry in college basketball? Jeff and I were at the game, and even though Kansas and Villanova had just played, 30 minutes before, it felt like it was 50-50 Duke UNC right down the middle. So what is that experience like of getting to play the biggest rivalry on the biggest stage in the sport?
I mean, it was a nerve-wracking just build-up. We just ready to play like immediately just because I knew how high stakes of a game it would be just because growing up being a college basketball fan and just knowing so much about the rivalry, it was like a game we had to win. So, I mean, we all just was ready to play, and it was still just no talk about us. Everybody was saying how Duke was the best team in the tournament. And I felt like we played the best basketball. I mean, all year, our problem had been depth. And, I mean, we was beating Baylor by 30 before Brady got thrown out and Caleb got pushed out the game too. And I feel like a lot of people forgot that just because we blew the lead. But, I mean, depth, like, it was like a 5-6-man team. So that was just more fuel to our fire going into that game because people were saying how they were the best team in the tournament. Nobody was picking us to win the game, and we just wanted to spoil their party.
I've got to ask you, did you ever ask Brady what it was like to sit in the locker room and watch the lead disappear? He had to be like losing his mind, right?
Oh yeah, Brady, he's a high-head. He was for sure going crazy. Even after the game we went in there, he was upset just because he didn't have a chance to be out there. And I mean, he had 27 points with 12 minutes still left. So I was hurt for him because I knew he could have had a really crazy game, legendary game. And the foul out, his 27 points helped us. But he was upset for sure.
I felt like, Mondo, that overtime kind of also gave you that, right? I mean, you blow that lead. Everybody thinks you're going to lose because you're playing a team, Baylor, that everybody kind of has said a program of culture, right? Toughness, mental toughness. Not the same guys, but a lot of the same guys who won a title a year ago. And I think a lot of people thought you guys would wilt in overtime. And instead, you come away with a win. How important was that for the rest of the run?
Yeah, we saw a lot of guys that don't usually play, like Puff Johnson and Justin McCoy in those situations. They stepped up. So, I mean, I think that kind of gave them the confidence too to know, like, hey, we can play in those moments. And then Dontrez too.
Yeah.
Just for us to just pull that out. And I mean, the way those guards were playing at Baylor, we found a way. And I mean, I think that gave us that extra confidence. Like, if we can beat the number 1 seed and win the national championship, we can beat anybody.
Armando, how do you view this season? I mean, getting to the Final Four is just an incredible achievement for any team. You beat Duke twice, but you end up losing the national title game. How do you view this year?
I mean, I would view it as success just because where we started and then to where we got to. And I think just it was huge for our team, just kind of building the identity of, what Coach Davis, Coach teams would be like. I feel like we did a good job of just showing that. And I mean, I think just this team for him for the rest of his career is something he can look back on and use us as an example, like for any team, because we started off not really looked at as a tournament team, having so much issues as far as everything all across the board. And it's something he can look back on and say, hey, like, you can change, you can be like that. So I think it was definitely a success.
That's because of idiots like Jeff. You guys weren't looked at as a tournament.
Wait. I just want to say,
any disrespect to ACC.
What's that?
I said, and you disrespected the ACC too.
I did. Well, that was just fun. Listen, as you know, I like to have a little fun
and then
too.
The
on
ACC's
Twitter.
got half the Final Four. I mean,
the one.
Should we allow Jeff to keep writing about college basketball or podcasting? I don't know.
Growing up a college basketball fan, I love like the big media guys like Jeff Goodman, and just to grow up and like now I see that he hates us. I'm like, dang.
And now you hate him.
Listen, I remember seeing you, Mondo, back at Peach Jam, you and Hunter beating the crap out of Wiseman in that game. I always remember that game, to be honest, because two bigs like that, and you guys were so much fun. That team was beyond loaded, right? You guys, Roach, who else did you have on that team? It was so loaded.
Justin Moore at Villanova.
Yeah.
Hunter, we had Ant Harris, who at UNC.
Yeah.
Jameer Young, who was at Charlotte.
Damn.
And he played like 12 minutes.
Wow.
We had Casey Morcell at NC State, Terrence Williams at Michigan. We had Jeff Oduru. He's killing at George Mason. Yep.
So, all right, I got a little quick before we get on to NIL, which everybody's going to want to know and hear. And I love you because I don't know how far into NIL you're going to go, but I know you're more honest than most dudes. So I can't wait to hear some of these answers. You and Hunter. All right, a quick 3 questions. And Hunter's going to hear this. We're going to make sure Hunter hears this. Number 1, who wins one-on-one, you and Hunter?
Me, for sure.
All right. Number 2, who has the higher vertical, you or Hunter?
Me, for sure.
Armando, do not let him ask terrible questions like this. You lead the freaking country in ACC and rebounding, and he's going to ask that question.
Hey, wait, Mondo, just ask Hummel what his vertical is.
Hey, I'm 33 years old. I'm old, so it doesn't even matter. But
he ducked me.
I cannot believe he asked you that.
He ducked me in New Orleans. We were supposed to have a vert contest, but Hummel was nowhere to be found. I'm 50 years old, and he's ducking me, Mondo. Like, come on.
That's the way to happen.
I don't want this old man to blow his Achilles trying to touch the first ring on the vertical jump test.
Probably a good move. Probably a good move. Who makes more threes? You or Hunter?
We had a shooting competition. It'd be close, but this year he made more threes than me.
He did. I give him credit. Like he had the green light too.
Yeah, I mean Hunter, he's been killing it for sure. Yeah. If he comes, he's gonna be up there in that Player of the Year consideration for sure.
All right, so let's get to NIL and how much that played in. We've seen Kofi leave early. We've seen Oscar come back, and you saw the number, I'm sure, that I put out there with Oscar. Yeah. Minimum of $2 million, I was told. Minimum.
He deserves it all. He deserves it for sure.
Is it crazy when you saw that number, or were you not surprised at all?
I mean, he was a national player of the year, so I mean, I don't think it's crazy. And I mean, Oscar, great person. Yeah. He got family overseas, so I mean, just having the opportunity to have that money and possibly be able to, do whatever you want with it, I'm all for it.
I'm with you. I think it's really cool. especially for somebody like him, who I know his family could use that money. So that's going to go a long way for his family.
Sure.
How much you decided you were coming back quickly? So my guess is they put together that NIL package for you pretty quick. How much did that play in?
Nah, I mean, it really didn't. I mean, it played somewhat of a role. Not like, how do I put it? I knew coming back, it would be a lot of opportunities just because UNC is such a huge school. And I mean, I know we got a lot of good fans, like as fans of the program. And I mean, NIL has been good, but I mean, a huge part for me too. I mean, I was injured, so I really couldn't do anything. I mean, I got good feedback, honestly, from just the NBA. I mean, it was great feedback. So, I mean, I feel like I was but in my situation, I just wanted to be able to go through that process and be as healthy as possible and put out the best product, because that's, I'm not in position of like Apollo Banchero where I can go into something not being 100%, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of that. And I mean, I just wanted to come back another year just to be able to develop more. I mean, I love being at UNC. Like you said, I got the opportunity to make NIL money and, feel comfortable with doing that and, possibly whatever my situation would have been next year, just still being in a good position at school.
You've now been a college student athlete with no NIL because of the rule, and then now you're a college student athlete with NIL. I was telling Jeff before you got on, and I am so pro the players should be able to make money.
Yeah.
But I was saying when I was playing at Purdue, had there been NIL, there was a bar where if you spent $100, they'd give you a T-shirt. And I was like, I might have had 700 T-shirts if I was making that kind of money. Yeah, I would have, just because I don't think I was equipped to make the best decisions at that point in time. Have you noticed a difference? Like, has your experience changed at UNC with name, image, and likeness, or has it been pretty much the same?
I would say, yeah, it has changed just because there's so many different things you can do now. Like, and that's kind of somewhat a part of your schedule. It's a small part, like autograph signings. Like a lot of the players, we do that, make a good amount of money off that. I mean, appearances, in Chapel Hill, I got my own burger, so I got to do restaurant appearances and things like that. So it's just a different dynamic that has been added to college basketball. But I mean, none of us on the team, we really went too crazy with just signing a bunch of partnerships, because obviously that would take away from our schedule. But just having that extra money in your pocket, for sure, it makes college even better.
Are you dealing?
Go ahead,
how do you deal with? I assume you have somebody, you have an agent who filters everything to you. Is that kind of how it works for you?
Yeah, that's mainly how it works.
Because I mean, that's the one thing I don't want to say I worry about it, but I think some guys, if they're not mature and they don't maybe have an agent or whatever, they're looking at their phone all the time. It could be distracting, could it not?
100%. Because I mean, you get all these brands hitting you up, and then it's just a matter of you just throwing your name around, just trying to get as much money as possible. And in the long run, it doesn't look good once you sign with a bunch of different brands and do things like that. So I feel like having an agent or somebody in your corner that can work through that space is definitely pivotal.
We got to give Jimmy Seafood a plug while we're on here, by the way. They sent me some stuff, and it was good, like really good.
Yeah, no, they got good stuff. And John, he's a huge UNC fan. So.
Huge. This guy hits me up all the time about Carolina news, all the time. So
that's perks of being a part of UNC. You get these time with people like that.
Armando, how do you feel like with going to the Final Four that changes the NIL game for you? I mean, I feel like that just puts you on a pedestal as a player, because it's so hard to get there. And especially at a brand like UNC, which is, one of the flagship programs of college basketball. How does that change things for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been crazy for all of us. Just that whole month of March and April. I mean, you could only imagine just through our merch, just everything, everything went crazy. And it's just been huge for us. And I mean, I guess it's kind of an incentive to win, even more of an incentive to win, just seeing how crazy it went in March. And for all of us, it was amazing.
And you mentioned balancing that. I guess just how challenging is that? Because and I look at this as, even as a pro athlete, you start getting offers to make money and you're like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do this, it would be easy to say yes to everything, not understanding that, this time commitment is going to be insane.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I never try to do anything during the season. So unless in March I did a few things like just appearances, just because it was kind of the thing that was going on in March with the team. But I try to stay away from deals where I got to do a bunch of appearances. Like I'll do social media posts and things like that, or like commercials. But that was all of us. We just really didn't want to do a lot of appearances during the season. So that was just our way of just not getting too deep into it.
So if there was an NIL, do you think you'd still come back to school, or do you think you would have at least tested the waters and probably left?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been close for sure. It would have been. I mean, this decision was close, but it would have been probably even closer. I probably would have maybe leaned a little bit more towards leaving.
Yeah. I feel like with bigs, and again, we just went through a Kofi leaves, but how much do you think like enjoying school too plays into this? Because if you hate school, you're going to leave even if you have NIL opportunities, right? But like for bigs, you, Hunter, Oscar, Drew Timmy still hasn't made his decision. Hunter hasn't yet. Trace Jackson Davis, all you guys, it's so different. And you and I talked about this a little bit at the Final Four, even, 10 years ago, you're all first round picks. Yeah. Now the game has changed where there's not as much value on you guys because you're not super athletic. You're not guys who stand out there and shoot the three. You're more traditional bigs. So none of you probably right now are locked first rounders.
Yeah.
So how much does that change the game for traditional bigs being able to stay in college longer?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just gives us more of a chance to, just to be able to develop and get even better. And especially like just having more time in college, it just, like I said, it gets you better. So when it's your time, you just go in and you're more ready than ever.
You feel like watching Hunter shoot threes? Like, have you talked to Hubert about that? And I know obviously you want to play within the framework of your team and make sure you utilize your strengths. But is that a conversation that you had a little bit of, hey, I'd like to be able to step out and, you show him any Hunter tape?
That's actually what he said to me. He was like, I couldn't come back if I, wouldn't make the jump and start shooting more and more threes.
So you're excited? You in the gym jacking threes, all day right now?
Well, once I get healthy, I will be.
How are you? What came of, like, how bad was that injury that we saw you obviously hobble off the floor? I mean, several times. And also what was going on with the court there? Like Hummel said to me, he said in a lot of courts, and you guys can talk about this a little bit, that the floor gives. So go through your kind of injury there and what happened and how you felt.
Yeah, I mean, it was just weird because I saw the video and it just didn't look like something that should happen like on a game-ready court. So, I mean, it kind of definitely threw me off after the game when I saw it because I thought I had a good angle and I thought I had a good chance of making a shot just because Dave, he had 4 fouls and I know he didn't want to pick up the 5th foul. And I just thought I had a good angle and then I just took that step and then my ankle just twisted. And I didn't think I did anything wrong. I mean, I knew the right ankle was weak, but I thought I was in a good place, but I guess it's one of those things where we'll never know.
When will you be cleared to be full go?
Probably in the next few weeks, I'd say.
Oh, good.
So was it like a 3rd degree? Like how bad was the sprain? Bad?
Yeah, it was pretty bad, but yeah, I'm a little bit ahead of the curve though, just my recovery.
Well, you don't have to rush it now either. I mean, that's the positive right now. You're not trying to get to an NBA workout or the combine or any of that. So you might as well get 100%.
Yeah.
How much plays into playing to your strengths as well? Like you want to obviously showcase the fact that you can spread the floor, but you're one of the best rebounders in the country, and I guess I want to ask you, what makes you such a good rebounder? What do you think is the most important thing about rebounding?
I would say just wanting to do it. Because, I mean, I feel like I just really fell in love with rebounding ever since I've been at UNC. And it's one of the things where I feel like that's what I'm great at. So, I wanted to find something that I could really be great at and stand out at. And I feel like rebounding, that's my niche.
And how much of a balance do you have to strike? Because obviously you can't rebound if you're 20 feet away from the basket. And not that you can't crash the glass, but, you've really found a way to be an elite level rebounder. You and Oscar, I would say, have separated yourselves as not just the best rebounders in the country, but two guys that have done it better than maybe anybody we've seen in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say just my coaches, like Coach Williams and Coach Davis. Y'all know how UNC is. That's something that we've been emphasizing forever. So I think I really just took it to the next level this year. And I knew I would play last year. I mean, just playing with all those bigs, I feel like my numbers definitely weren't like, as far as rebounding, where I knew they could be. And then coming in this year, I told Coach May, I was like, I honestly think I can average about 13 rebounds. And I actually ended up doing it.
Crazy. So I didn't know Hubert much going into this year. I didn't, because Carolina assistants have a different role. And it's really kind of not to get a lot of attention. I'd walk by him on the recruiting trail. And honestly, I thought he didn't like me because he'd have, and he probably didn't, but he'd have his head down. He'd have his head down and just kind of stayed to himself. And this year, man, I have fallen in love with Hubert Davis. Like, something about him that the passion, the energy, the enthusiasm on the sideline, in the press, everywhere. He is like just somebody that you want to play for. Why?
To say he's such a caring guy, and he just makes everything fun. Like, just him just instilling confidence in all of us this year has been huge. Like, it's never a point in time, and sometimes this may be a bad thing too, but he's never telling us like we're taking bad shots, and he's just always encouraging us to shoot more. And I think that's just us having those confidence from our coach was just huge for us. And I mean, he's just a loving guy. He's one of the nicest people you ever meet.
Do you have a favorite Coach Davis story?
Man, there's so many. Like, he's a fiery person. Like, you see the nice, but I mean, he got a fiery side and an inside too.
Robbie, he doesn't swear.
Yeah, he does not at all. Never.
I did not.
Never heard him swear. So is there a point? Sometimes I feel like guys can be too nice, too optimistic, too upbeat. Was there a point where he changed a little bit and maybe got into you a little bit more? And obviously it's a feeling out process for him, for you, in his first year moving over to replace Coach Williams. Was there a point where maybe he felt more comfortable that he could kind of jump you guys?
I mean, first day of practice, I mean, he got into me in front of everybody. And I think that really just set the tone. He's a nice guy, but when it gets in between those lines, he turned into a completely different person. And it's almost like he kind of bipolar, because we'll be smiling right before practice and talking and laughing. Then as soon as we get on those floor and let's say we miss a layup or something, next thing you know, he's setting it off in there. So he got two different sides. But I mean, all year, I mean, he was tough on all of us. All the coaches are. So that's kind of just how UNC coaches are just in general.
By the way, Shimon Williams, we had him on our show during the Final Four, and he now said his quote, "The rivalry is dead." That's what he said. He goes, "There's nothing Duke can do now. The rivalry is over." And Shimon's a character, man. The Carolina family is something like no other in terms of like guys coming back in the summer, everybody kind of protecting and being a part of that family. What do you got coming up now? You're finishing classes. What will the summer look for you this year?
Just working out, just getting better. That's really it.
And what about the team now? You got almost everybody coming back. We're one guy hasn't made their decision, one key guy. You letting him do his thing and just leaving him alone, or Caleb Love, obviously going to be a huge decision for him and for this team.
I mean, it'll definitely be a huge decision, but I mean, we hope that he comes back. But I mean, even in the transfer portal, everybody wants to come to UNC. I mean, some of the guys that have hit me up, you wouldn't even believe. Like, dang, like,
really?
So, yeah.
You don't want to drop any hints?
So how much recruiting do you do?
I mean, we'll have no scholarship. So it's
well, that's the problem. Come walk on at UNC. We'll win the whole thing. That's the pitch.
High level guys that like want to come to UNC, but it's just we have no scholarships.
You do realize, and this is something that hasn't been talked about at all, but we're going to start to see walk-ons with NIL. Like you could think about it. You don't have a scholarship. It doesn't matter in a way, because if you get enough NIL for that player, get him $1 million. a scholarship's what? 50. I mean, I know I'm paying for my daughter next year, 50 grand at Indiana. I assume it's similar for out of state for Carolina. So you get somebody, they can be a walk-on now. So you got to work that angle.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the NCAA, they're going to probably have to figure out something fast. Just in general.
Yes.
I mean, everything's been going, guys just being able to leave. And then with this whole NIL thing, it's crazy.
It is.
The only thing I will say about that, Jeff, is that your NIL money is taxable and your scholarship is not.
Right.
You know, like that's where that kind of hurts. If you're like, well,
yeah, I mean, reality hit for me too. Like when I did my tax, and I saw like all the money that I had to pay back. I was like, dang.
Hey, pay quarterly taxes. That's my advice to you from now on, Armando.
Estimated payments.
Right.
Have they helped you with that, Armando? I mean, because I feel like as a student athlete, I would have had zero idea. You know, if you're making over six figures, it's just you have no clue.
Yeah, I mean, the tough part about it is just like the coaches and stuff, they can't be involved. So it's like you can't really, literally everything, you got to get insight from people like that's outside of the program. So luckily I knew to do that though. And I mean, my mom did a good job, and I'm working with did a good job of just telling me not to spend any of the money, and I didn't do that. So luckily I was able to pay taxes. I mean, I know a couple guys have come up with that problem for sure, just not realizing that you got to pay.
That is the hard part though. It's like, okay, your coaches can't help you not only with that, but they can't even help you with finding an agent and finding maybe a financial guy. So a lot of times that's kind of my concern, because now you got agents coming at you and other guys, obviously, that you don't know what a percentage is that you should be paying to them. I
mean, I think the NCAA should definitely allow like coaches to be somewhat involved, because I mean, those are the people that's in your corner, people you look at as father figures, mother figures, whatever. So just having their opinion, and a lot of the time the coaches have been in those positions and they have marketing deals and things like that. So getting their insight on things like that, I think would be a tremendous help.
Well, I would agree on that. Listen, appreciate you joining us, man. I'm glad everything worked out. I'm glad we had some fun, and I can provide a little morsel of motivation for you guys. I promise I will not call you soft next year. Well, I can't promise that. If I see you and you guys aren't playing hard, now the expectations are even higher to me.
Yeah. I mean, and tons of respect to you too, because when you say it, you put a name on it, add everything. A lot of people, they, quote unquote, sneak this, but you straightforward with it. So you got to respect that.
Listen, to me, I've always been that way, for better or worse. Like, I'm going to say it and I'll be there for it. And you and I knew each other enough that, I think, again, to me, I just had higher expectations of you guys than what I saw at Mohegan Sun. And I was disappointed, not only again in the effort, but like there was no talking going on the court that day. None.
Oh man, we watched that film. That was a bad product we put out for sure.
Yeah, but it was a hell of a product you put out at the end of the year. So my man, congrats. And again, we'll talk again before the start of the season. But enjoy the summer, get healthy, and again, congrats on a heck of an ending of the season.
Gotcha, no problem.
All right, man. As a small business owner, you're juggling 100 balls in the air and don't have time to interview candidates who just aren't qualified for your role. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier for you to find the people you want to interview faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond, to the world's largest professional network of over 770 million people. Then add your job and the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring, so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/good. That's linkedin.com/good to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, that was Armando Bacot, Carolina. heck of an interview. Like, he's just super smart, honest. You just, I don't want to say you don't find a ton of them. But like, I feel like he doesn't have the guard up. And a lot of kids these days have that guard up. He's just, I love talking to him, Rob.
No, we interviewed him at the in Fort Worth after they beat Baylor in that crazy game. And I just thought his answers, even if you are a really good interview, sometimes post-game stuff, the emotions are super high. You're just leaving the floor. And I thought the way that he answered questions there was so impressive. He's a great interview. He's got a big time future ahead of him, whether it's as a player or something else. And that is so obvious. But what a run Carolina had. And he was a big part of it. I mean, he was. And I think it's so cool that Krzyzewski told him in the back tunnel, he said, "You were my ACC player of the year." And
yep.
That's
yeah.
Not just K's assessment. I think a lot of people felt that way.
Well, especially because, again, I feel like, and I know ACC player of the year is different. It's just based on the ACC season.
Right.
But I think a lot of these awards don't take into account the biggest games of the year, which are the NCAA tournament, when you're talking about,
And I mean, they vote on that before. Like
they do.
The awards given in early March. So what are you going to do?
All right. The big news this week, Rob, I don't think anybody thought this was going to happen. I know I didn't. All of a sudden I heard some rumblings.
Some insider you are.
I know. Listen, I'm not alone. I don't think anybody kind of knew this was happening until, I'm trying to remember the days now. So today's Friday. We're recording. Was it yesterday? 2 days ago. Wednesday?
2 days ago.
Wednesday. I'm in Boston meeting somebody before the Celtics Nets game 2. And I start to get some texts about it. And, about Jay Wright retiring. And at first I'm like, really? And then I called a couple of the players, and I won't say who.
Current players, or
one current player, one somebody currently on the staff, and another former player. And they all got back to me right away. Like, no, I don't think so. I think you're off. I don't think he's retiring. And usually it goes.
They would ignore you, right?
Correct. They would ignore me. Now, I texted Jay too, and Jay usually is unbelievable about getting back to me.
And he ghosted you.
Incredible. And he ghosted me. And then the problem is, okay, the game, pregame, people are starting to show up. I was talking to Ben Simmons for a little bit. Coach K, Shire, their whole staff gets there. You get sidetracked a little bit. And then it broke, and everybody I think it started to get out there enough that everybody kind of knew it was potentially going to happen, and it broke. I don't know what time. It was probably an hour before the game, 45 minutes, something like that. Jay Wright retiring at 60 years old, 2 titles, just went to a Final Four. I'm not sure he's at the top of his game, but he's damn close if he's not. Now they're going to rebuild a little bit this year. Losing Gillespie, losing Samuels, potentially Slater leaving. He's got another year if he wants to utilize that. But this one, it shocked me. And I think I felt it because here's the thing for me personally, Rob, he's the first head coach I ever met doing this. First head coach.
Where'd you meet?
ABCD camp. Now, I was doing recruiting, as you know. And one of the kids I really connected with, was Jason Frazier, who was the #1 player in the country at that point. Big kid who was so talented. And their staff knew I had a good relationship with Jason. So I think Jay went out of his way to know who I was.
What year was this at ABCD?
This would have been like 2002, maybe.
Okay.
Somewhere around there, 2001, 2, I think. Yeah, I think so. And then I saw him a slam dunk to the beat. And Jay just is one of those guys. Once you meet him, he just makes you feel like he's known you forever. And doesn't just go to me, it goes to everybody. No, Jay Wright
he's just so universally liked in a business where if you win, a lot of people don't like you, right? Like, I think there's not much that you hear, or not anything you hear about Jay Wright that is negative. I mean, his players love playing for him. Coaches respect him. He's great with the media. he's an unbelievable coach. I mean, that the culture word that gets thrown around, you talked about with Baylor earlier, that's Villanova.
Yep.
I mean, they are so fundamentally sound while also having super good players. They know their strengths, they play to them, and they win at the highest level. And he elevated Villanova, from a program that had some success back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And maybe went through it. It was you could call it a lull, right? That's fair to say.
Yes.
A big lull. And he put them right back there with the Blue Bloods. I don't know. That argument is interesting because you're talking about the Dukes and the Carolinas and the UCLAs, and I'm not sure they're not that level to me, but they're definitely the next one.
He made him into it. He made him into that.
They have performed like a blue blood over the last 10 years. I mean, 2 national championships, a Final Four. But I have so much respect for Jay Wright from watching his teams, from seeing how he conducts himself, and I hate it for college basketball.
Yeah,
I thought that with Kay leaving and with Roy Williams leaving, with some of the people that we've lost, it's like, man, he'll be the guy that carries the torch. And now it's kind of like, well, maybe not. I'm shocked that not only was Nova able to keep this quiet, like you said, you didn't hear anything until day of?
Yeah.
But they were able to hire someone new. Like how that happens. And I know that it wasn't like they went and got Bill Self or
some
huge name, but still, like, people hear about this stuff.
Yes.
I mean,
hard to keep it quiet because he's a coach at Fordham, which means he's told people on staff, which means they've told people, and that he didn't want to make the banquet was last night, Thursday night. He didn't want it to get out there before the banquet, and that was the problem. Like, he probably should have waited till next week to do anything, but I think he didn't want to go out recruiting.
It's right. No, I'm sad a little bit for college basketball.
Do you worry about college basketball now losing the Jay Wrights, and K was 75? So that's
right. And like Coach Boeheim,
right.
He's going to retire.
Not those guys, but like Tom Izzo, does he go out 2 years earlier than he would? Does Bill Self go? Do these guys go out because NIL they don't want to deal with, and the transfer portal? Yeah. It's just not as much fun to be a head coach anymore, other than when you look at your paycheck and you say, like, all right, I'm not leaving that money on the table.
Right. Yeah, but until it starts happening, I don't think you can worry. I mean, it is concerning seeing Coach Wright leave. I didn't know he was 60. I thought he was like 55 or 50, he doesn't look 60. Coach Izzo, I feel like, is kind of that age too, where you're not going to be worried about the state of the game because he is at that age where
he's older than you think.
Right. It'll stink for the Big Ten and it'll stink for college basketball.
How old do you think Izzo is?
68.
Yeah, I think you're right. 67.
67.
Yeah.
So I don't think that his retirement would make me worry. But if you have like Matt Painter retires in 3 years, and not that people will be like, well, you're biased. But I would say he's a voice of the game in the sense of people go to him for rules and committee stuff and NCAA stuff. And it's like, well, why is this guy not going to coach till he's 65, or even 70? Who else would I throw in there?
Mark Few. Mark Few is one.
Yes.
That's going to be interesting because he hasn't won one. So it'll motivate him to keep going to hopefully win one. But I think Mark Few is a guy that will be frustrated if NIL becomes something he's got to deal with all the time in Spokane.
Totally. I would be concerned if, even though Kansas had their fair share of NCAA investigation stuff, if Bill Self just said, I'm retiring in 2 or 3 years, that would be concerning to me because I think he's such a good coach. It's like, this doesn't seem right that he would hang it up. And look, there is a lot more to life than just coaching college basketball, but it's just a departure from what we've seen.
Right.
I think that's why it's a little bit jarring when you see this and you're like, Jay Wright's going to hang it up at Villanova. I mean, his teams are in the mix every year, and but it is a grind.
I applaud him.
And the portal changes things.
Well, it's funny because somebody hit me up yesterday and they said, all right, everybody's saying the coaches are working harder now and longer hours and, because of the portal, because of NIL. And my take, and this coach said it to me, he goes, years ago, what people failed to remember is like, there were no recruiting restrictions. We could go out every day.
And they were out in April and
they were out all year. Right. Yeah, they were out all summer. There was nothing. So some of these older dudes, they're kind of used to that. Like Izzo, I mean, he's out every day of July. Every day you can be out recruiting. He never misses it. Now, there's some guys, again, who have great work-life balance. We've talked to Mark Few about this. Remember, he kind of went back at me saying, like, I think he's lazy. I don't think he's lazy. He's different. He's different than a lot of the other guys. I think Jay Wright had started to become that way. Not, again, still wanting to work, but just not wanting to work 24/7 and be on the like. It's hard to fly across the country to see a 16-year-old kid play like that at some point.
But I'm not sure that was his issue. I think his issue was sitting. You don't want to watch your entire team leave and you have to rebuild from scratch, and then you have to sit in front of your computer and go through the portal.
Yeah, but he didn't. The only thing I'll say to that, Rob, is he only had one transfer on his team.
He had not dealt with it. I agree. But I think that's going to come. It's not going to be like that forever. Correct. Because that's the way of the.
Was it foreshadowing for Jay Wright? Was it him knowing what was going to happen because he's losing a lot of his team right now and him saying, I don't want to deal with it? Because he hasn't dealt with it the last 2 years like some coaches have.
No, he is not. But I can't imagine that him going to recruit a high school kid would be what drives him out, because he's been doing that for his entire career. He might be like, man, I'm kind of sick of doing this, but I think it's NIL. I think it's portal.
Yeah.
I think it's the worry that has to be in the back of every coach's mind saying, man, when this season ends, we might have every player in the portal. I might have to rebuild our entire team. Yeah. And we might even be a decent team. We've seen teams that are not bad, just lose almost everybody. So I think that's that has to be it. But he's made plenty of money. What a year to go out, win a gold medal, go to the Final Four. It just enjoy life. Enjoy life. It's too bad that his team wasn't at full capacity to get to maybe make the national title game and win. But they still, I mean, the way they played even in the national semifinal, they were right there with Kansas. They hung in there, and they have 5 guys out there playing. So what a career for him. I'm sad for the game. I'm happy that he'll get to go do whatever he wants, and now he'll have to listen to the Lakers and maybe Philly rumors.
I mean, listen, the big question will be, like, in a year or two. And again, if Philly opens up, if like the Lakers hire Doc and the Sixers job opens up, I would think that'll be the first call. I mean, I've talked to several GMs over the years, and I talked to one 2 nights ago, and he was like, yeah, if he wants to get in the league, like,
his demeanor would be perfect for it.
Perfect.
He would kill it.
The only thing is he won't have dudes playing like robots like he did it.
No. But I think that wouldn't. I don't think that would be a problem.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, listen, Jay Wright, to me, you're 60. Go ahead, do whatever the hell you want to do now. You don't want to do it anymore? Don't do it. Don't do it for the money, which a lot of coaches do. Don't do it because you don't know what else the hell you'll do in life. Go and enjoy. And you know what? If he steps out for a year and he says, you know what? I miss it. I'm going to get back in. He can go wherever. Now it won't be, honestly, like, I always felt like he could never leave Villanova for another coaching job. He just couldn't. He was Villanova. Now, all right, like, he can go wherever he wants if he wanted to go somewhere else, and nobody would fault him for it, or take an NBA job in a year if you feel like, hey, that's something you want to do. All 3 of his kids are out of college. Like, that's why I felt like he was never going to take an NBA job years ago when the Sixers came calling, was because his kids were in high school or in college. I think his daughter was in high school, maybe one kid in college, one was in high school still. And he was like, I'm not subjecting them to the grind of the NBA and everything that comes along with it. Because while people think the NBA is easier, it's not from a travel standpoint easier. It's easier that you're not on the phone all the time. But to me, it can be more taxing from a travel standpoint because you have so many games.
I heard it might be the Wright and Hummel podcast next year. That's what I heard.
You think you can pay him enough money?
He volunteered his services pro bono.
You would rather work with Jay Wright?
Hey, you know what? I don't have to worry about it. That's not my concern. That's CEO and President Doster's concern.
Yeah,
he's
got to take some money out of his own pocket for that.
Yeah,
he's Doster's pretty cheap.
He's got a sacrifice here.
I don't see him doing that. Plus, I mean, you'd rather work with Jay Wright than me? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, probably.
All right. Well, there you have it. All right. Listen, thanks everybody watching, listening. Another edition of the Goodman and Hummel pod. Thanks to Armando Bacot. He was terrific. And we'll see you.
And not that long of a layoff. We only missed a week.
We'll try to do like probably every other week. I think that I don't want to grind, you too hard, take you away from the golf course, which is really your bread and butter this time of year.
It is.
It is. I don't need you hitting any more shots in Lake Michigan. All right. No more tee shots in Lake Michigan.
It was tough finish, double par yesterday, but that's the way it is.
There we have it.